On this channel, we talk about the greatest lie of this generation, the myth, the hoax, black victimization, and how it's mainstream, how we see it on TV, all the movies, all the TV shows. It's always about black victimization at the hands of relentless white racism. I mean, there's 3 movies on now. There's 3 TV shows on now. There's one about the LA riots. I think CNN is doing a show on the history of black oppression. And this goes on and on and on. Django Unchained, 12 Years a Slave, etc., etc., etc. But so we call this the biggest lie of our generation. One of the smaller lies, upholding the bigger lie, is when we see at the Democratic National Convention, if they want to make it seem like this is not really just a black thing, they'll use the expression people of color. They try to rope the Asians and the Hispanics into the same group as if their level of criminality, their level of violence, their level of dysfunction is anywhere near the black level in this country. It is not. I just saw this picture the other day where a bunch of Asian people are holding a sign going down the street talking about Asian, I forget what the sign said. I'll post it up here. But a bunch of Asian people were complaining about racism towards them and how racism towards black people, racism towards Asians is the same thing. I found that whenever you see an Asian person complaining about racism, it's always some social justice warrior from a college trying to convince you that Asian people do not fit the racial stereotype of being better academically, better socially. They don't go to jail. They don't do all these bad things. They just work and have families and try to take care of themselves. And so the Asian person is trying to tell you she's not really, usually a woman for some reason, they're not really as good as you think they are. But then at the end of the interview, you say, okay, well, what are you studying in school? Well, I'm studying quantum physics with a master's in French, Russian, and Chinese, something like that. But the fact is, the level of black on Asian violence is really enormous in this country. Remember the story, I documented this in White Girl Bleed a lot, how in San Francisco, the newspaper calls it that town's dirty little secret. They found that 85% of the street crime in San Francisco was black on Asian. And here's just another story from New York, just one. So you want to call this anecdotal? You want to call this cherry picking? That's why I keep my playlist. That's why I was so happy when YouTube restored my old channel. I'll put up a link to my black on Asian violence. You want to you can call this cherry picking or anecdotal if you want, but then it's on you that you have to turn around and show me the level of Asian criminality directed towards black people. Oh, good luck with that.
Tonight, she could have been your mother or grandmother pulling into her garage, and notice right here, someone was stalking her every move, waiting to strike. The video has angered a lot of people, and tonight we now know the suspects are in custody. Eyewitness News reporter Chauncey Glover is live with the story behind the video.
Good evening to you, Eric. Police say all the suspects wanted was the woman's car. They found that car late this evening here in this neighborhood about 3 miles away from the attack. Tonight we spoke with Miss Dang. She's a Vietnamese widow, and we spoke with her with help from a translator.
76-year-old Kim Dang is a female monk. She prays every evening for 2 hours. Today's prayer, more gracious than ever.
She felt very lucky that she came out of it with bruises and scrapes, but she's alive.
Watch this surveillance video as a defenseless Dang gets out of her car. She's walking from the garage to the back door, oblivious to what's about to happen, when suddenly
She just felt something struck her from above, as if the ceiling fell on top of her.
a man comes from behind, striking Dang in the head. She takes a brutal fall and blacks out. The bad guy takes her car.
She was in shock and a lot of pain. She saw that she was bleeding.
While we were talking to Dang this evening, family members got a call from detectives. Police found her Honda. Her son later brought the car back home. Family members also say police told them 2 suspects had been caught. Investigators believe Dang was a part of a crime spree and the robbers needed a getaway car. Tonight, Dang is bandaged up and bruised all over, but letting nothing get in the way of lighting her incense and kneeling to pray.
She will continue to just do good and pray for peace and humanity.
a swollen lip, and 2 front teeth wired in place.
The guy come from nowhere and bam, just one punch.
It was midday yesterday, and longtime Heights resident Dan Lee says he was pushing a cart out Kroger's front doors just as his attacker approached.
He mumbling something, obviously, because I'm not paying attention. And bam, next thing I know, I completely lost conscious. And I hold my mouth, bleed coming out.
The attacker took off as customers and staff rushed to help him.
2 front tooth completely fall off. But lucky the medic found him.
What Lee could not find was a reason. He says he was not robbed and didn't recognize the man.
And so I think it could be the knockout punch game that they've been playing on the internet right now.
If you've ever gone to one of these corner grocery stores in the ghetto or anywhere near the ghetto, run by a Korean person or Indian or Pakistani, and you'll know what I'm talking about, this level of black on Asian hostility, violence, relentless. We see it all the time. We see it in the murders, we see it in the robberies, we see it following people home from the casino. And we see law, and we see public officials and reporters and black activists and their liberal enablers. They're just in denial, deceit, and delusion about it over and over and over. They're always coming up with new excuses. My favorite excuse came from Brooklyn, when the city councilwoman in Brooklyn, Lori Cumbo, she was talking about black on Jewish violence. She said, well, that happens because the Jewish people have not shared their success. Well, and that's why they get beat up all the time. Well, it's the same thing with the Asians. I mean, there's lots and lots of stories of black politicians looking at these Asian shopkeepers who work 14 hours a day in the ghetto, and they are viewed as criminals, as people are ripping off black people, and all the time there's not one black person setting up their own store, doing their own thing, creating their own jobs. It just doesn't happen. Nobody ever points that out. Because among Asian people, the first lesson they learn when they come to this country is don't make the black kids angry. Boom.